to the Honourable Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Chief Justice, ladies and gentlemen, colleague ministers, I shall also stop there. But then again, I'm very happy that all of you who have been invited. I thank you for your presence. I thank you for your continued friendship. I thank you for honoring the memory of late Yousuf Mohamed, and I also thank the author for being the reason why we are all here today. I'd like you to applaud the author for this. I gave some thought to what I will share with all of you today, and I must say that this has made me think a lot about father, late father. And together with my brother, we have reminisced. And together with mother and my sister, we have thought about the past. Together with Irfan, Rahman, my cousin, and together with my uncle, who is present today, we have always shared about the good days, the old days of Yousuf Mohamed. But then let me share with you two elements that I guess the learned author did not come across when writing this beautiful shedeur. I had the opportunity of having someone visit me. He was once upon a time head of the NHDC, and he no longer lives in Mauritius and lives in Canada. So he decided to visit me in the ministry, at my office, and he shared with me a letter, because once upon a time he used to belong to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and was based at the High Commission of Mauritius in Cairo, where late Yousuf Mohamed was ambassador. And he gave me a letter, an original letter that was written by my late father was delivered to his father, who was no more. And when I read those words in the handwriting of my late esteemed father, it was as though he was advising me from the place where he is now. What I saw in this letter is just amazing. It made me shiver, because you never think that you would be able to hear your father again. Because very often I speak to him, he doesn't answer. But in fact, he does answer in ways that I would not even have imagined. And this is one of the ways he responded. And allow me to read this letter that is dated the 16th of July, 1981. And it's written on the letterhead of a hotel called Gulf Hotel Bahrain. Because in those days, to go to Egypt, you had to fly, you often flew to Bahrain, and from Bahrain to Seychelles, and Seychelles to Mauritius on British Airways. Because I remember those days. I was with a late father, my mother was here, my sister, and my younger brother when we came back to Mauritius, because it cost too much money for my father to be able to afford, in those days as ambassador, to pay for schooling for his children. Because in those days he had to pay for it himself. So let me read this, and he writes, "Dear Yousuf," because the person's name was Yousuf, and he says, "My days and months of working with you, Mr. Doba and Mr. Dil Mohamed, brought me very close to all of you. It was with a heavy heart that I left all such good friends, but there was no way out of my predicament. I was very miserable without my children, and at times it was dreadful to see my wife leaving me now and then to be with the kids. Besides," he says, "I could not bring myself to like Egypt, however much I tried, but I do have a great deal of sympathy for the Egyptians. In 3 days, I shall be back among my people and back home. This very word, home," and he underlined the word home, "means so very much to me." So the reason I share this with you is because this is precisely who Father was, a family man, a man that for him, his family was the most important of all. I see many of you who are smiling today, his pupils, his colleagues, his friends, his adversaries at one point. And all of you remember him for what he was, but certain things you wouldn't know. And I wanted to share this with you because he was indeed not only my father, but to me, he was my best friend. And each child, we had a different relationship with him. My sister, a different one. A different one with my younger brother, who lived next door to him. And he had a different relationship with each of his grandchildren, whom he loved enormously. Each one of them in a different way. Then there was another part of him, that is the part that he was this politician that he was. And I came across Hansard. And Hansard, in that was a 1972 sitting of the 16th of November 1972. And in that, allow me to share this with you. He is no more, but Hansard has reproduced what he said in those days. And it is so important. The fact is that today we have a Prime Minister who is the son of late Sir Shakeel Mohamed. We have the Deputy Prime Minister who is Paul Bélanger, and I'm number 3 of government. And how life turns out is just amazing. And in this particular piece that I'm going to read for you, it will show you the character that he was, the metal he was made of, the legacy that he leaves us, his children, the profession, the future politicians, the youngsters. This is who he was. And I read what he said on a motion of the Honourable Prime Minister. He was backbencher of the Labour Party, but he said what he wanted to say. And he said, "Sir, politics is a very dirty, filthy game. And much to my dislike, I happen to be in this dirty game." My mother will recall, she never wanted her husband, her late husband, to join politics. And when she heard Sir Abdul Mohamed say to her husband, newly married they were, "You have to join the political fray, you have to help us with independence," she said in the presence of Sir Abdul Mohamed, "No, you shall not. I don't want my husband and to join politics." And Sir Abdul Mohamed said to her, "Ou envie garder ou mari pour vous-même?" Typical of what Sir Abdul Mohamed was. And he goes on, "I happened to be in this dirty game. I was forced into it." I guess it was part of it. "I did not want to join politics, but being in it, I should do my duty, not dictated by any dirt, any filth, any trash, but dictated purely and simply by my conscience." He goes on to say, "The training that I received, the way I have been brought up by my family, by my revered father, and the advice I have received from my elders dictate to me that I must act honestly and decently." And he goes on to say, "Mr. Speaker, I shall never forget the day when I went to the court once on a case where Mr. Bélanger was accused." And he goes on, he says, "I was not his lawyer, and there was a witness there, Mr. Dave Villasomi. I shall remember that day until I die. You know why, sir? Because like you, Mr. Speaker, I am a family man. I have a daughter who's 5 years old and a son who's 4. So I guess that must have been the first time I was referred to in the National Assembly. And he says, "I have a son who's 4 years old. That child, the daughter of Mr. Villasomi, was hanging on to the neck of her father and said, 'Papa, vin la case. Quand tu vin la case, Papa?' After 9 months in jail. Can a man," and he goes on to explain the feeling of him, how he felt. But then he goes on to explain further, pleading to the then Prime Minister, Sir Shakeel Mohamed, to release Mr. Bélanger and his friends. And then the Prime Minister kept on interrupting him in those days. Interrupted him. I see a lot of the actual Prime Minister in the then Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister. And then he goes on to say, there I see it. Sir, I'm only making an appeal, just as I would have made an appeal to every sensible human being. I am not the sort of man because I do not get things from government. And this is who he was. He never obtained anything from any government, even though he belonged to government. This is who he was. And he goes, throughout my speech, you will notice that I have at all time not attacked the Prime Minister. I have sworn loyalty to them, but I have denounced abuse. I have told and treated the Prime Minister to release them. I am a man who will be honest, loyal to the Prime Minister, and I will do so by telling him exactly what the truth is. This is who he was. And today, I stand before you, telling you that this is my best friend, the words he spoke, the lessons he gives. This was, and he said in that speech, I shall not be Prime Minister, but I have to speak the truth to the Prime Minister. But then again, let me say that my father was not Prime Minister, but he was indeed a statesman. Let me say to you a third thing before I conclude. I remember the time when he was when he had his operation, and when they opened up his skull for his operation. We asked a friend of the family, Dr. Farhad Umia, who is here. We asked him, since we trust his ability, we trust him in the qualities as a human being, as a medical doctor, we said, be there as our eyes for the family. We are all stressed out. And see, because he is in an artificial coma, they'll wake him up. Be next to him, tell us everything is going well. When he walked in, all of a sudden, I heard a scream, and it was father's voice. He screamed. I rushed in. My brother was there, everyone else was there, and all of a sudden, I saw à son chevet, Dr. Umia. Father opened his eyes. His head was bandaged. He said, what have you all done to me? And I was saying, what's going on? I looked at Dr. Umia. He said, what have you done to me? Why have you sent me a gynecologist? Have you changed my sex? That was my father. That was your husband. That was your friend. That was who he was. And he had such a sense of humor. But I shall share the letter that I obtained with the Honorable Prime Minister, because I consider, and he considers us to be close family, friends, family. I say that again. And I'll share it with him. I'm happy to see the Honorable Chief Justice here. I'm happy to see her because he also shared something with me when he was in Réunion Island. He said to me, help her out, help her out. And in those days, Father could no more, you don't walk anymore. And he said, help her out, help her out. So I hope they just don't stop her from becoming Chief Justice. She is Chief Justice. So your his prayers were with you, in spite of the fact, because he remembers you as being his pupil. Let's not forget that. I see here the DPP and many of you who have known him personally. So I thank you again for your presence. We miss him a lot. And I'm sure from wherever he is today, he looks down at us. And he must have a few jokes about all of us. But one day we shall meet again and we shall be able to hear him joke anew. Thank you very much.